Hi, and welcome to another edition of Q&A with the Book Designer. I'm Joel Friedlander, and I write the bookdesigner.com blog. Today I have some questions from a reader named Jamie. Jamie's working on a science curriculum for kids, and this book is going to be published by a nonprofit and put up for sale as a fundraiser. In addition, the book has illustrations both done by Jamie, originals, and it also has illustrations taken from a clip art website that allows you to use them for commercial purposes. So Jamie has three questions. One, considering the organization as a non-profit, is the use they're making of these images a commercial use? Number two, Jamie wants to know if she should indicate somehow which illustrations are originals of hers and which ones are clip art from this website. And her third question is, somebody has told her that it might be a good idea to put a copyright statement on the bottom of every page of the book. And those are her three questions. I think these are all really good questions, by the way, Jamie, because they bear on a lot of things that we need to know about when we're reproducing other people's material. And of course, in the publishing business, this is something we do all the time. So people in the book business tend to learn something about copyright. Now, I'm not a copyright lawyer, and I'm not playing one on this video, but I can tell you that there's not that big a distinction between commercial use and non-commercial use. The fact of the matter is, you're taking somebody else's property and reproducing it. That's the key part. Whether you're selling it or giving it away is not as important as the fact of whether you actually have permission to use that material that, in fact, is the property of someone else. You know, in the United States, we have a lot of respect for intellectual property. And, you know, that's really a good thing for those of us who create content, because those laws protect us. For instance, today I was reading through my email and I get Google Alerts. I hope you know how to use Google Alerts. Maybe we'll do a little session on those one day. And up popped a notice that an article that I posted on my blog just yesterday had showed up on somebody else's blog. Now, I went over there and checked, and the person who reposted it had never asked me permission to do that. Now, that article belongs to me. I created the content. I published the content. My blog has a copyright on the bottom, and I bet yours does too. It should. And this person had just republished it without my permission. So I had to write to the person and say, hey, you published that article. You didn't even ask me. And I respond pretty favorably to people when they ask if they can repost my content. I get a lot of requests from people who'd like to reprint articles I write, and by and large I try to say yes whenever I can. In this case, since the person never asked, I said, hey, would you please take that down? So copyright's really important, and that was copyright laws what allowed me to get that offending article, which was infringing my copyright, removed from the web. Now, as far as our questions are concerned, you know, if you are dealing with images that you're allowed to use commercially and it's a blanket allowance, then you can go ahead and do that. The important thing here is you should notify readers with a legal notice, usually on the copyright page, which illustrations are originals, because you own the copyright to those. And you don't want to give up the copyright to your original creations. So what people usually do, and a good way to do this, is on the copyright page, you can note the page number of every page that has an illustration that's new and original. And then you put a copyright notice in for those illustrations. Copyright 2011 by, and the artist's name, illustrations on these pages. You don't have to put it on every illustration, and you don't have to do anything about the clip art illustrations because you don't own the copyright in them, and if they didn't ask you, you don't have to give them a citation or say these are used by permission. Now, it's always a nice thing to do to note if you're using material like that people have allowed out into the world for commercial use, to put a notice on your copyright page and say where you got them and that they're available. Now, as far as putting a copyright notice on the bottom of every page, is completely unnecessary. And if you pick up any book published in the United States, almost any book published in the United States, and you open it, you'll see a copyright on what we call the copyright page. That's on the back of the title page usually. Now the title page is what's called a recto, or a right-hand page, and when you turn it over, the back or left is called a verso. So the title verso is where we usually put the copyright notice. So that's where you would put any notices related to the artwork. That's where you're going to put the copyright on the whole book. It's going to say copyright 2011, probably the name of the organization if it's that kind of use. And the organization, of course, is free to sell it. There's nobody else's content in there. By putting your own notice on the book that the illustrations you created that are new are yours, you've protected your copyright, and everything should be fine and dandy. Now keep in mind, you can't use other people's material without their permission. Unless you have a specific license, like on this website, that specifically says you are allowed to have any commercial use of these images, you can't use them. That copyright law protects you and me, and it's also protecting the work of the people that we want to use. Now, hey, take a lesson from my experience today. If you see something that you really love and you just think, wow, that's the perfect thing, that's the best illustration, that's the greatest photo for my book cover, don't steal the artwork. Get in touch with the owner of the copyright and ask them permission. I think you'll find very often people will be happy to give you permission. It helps them promote themselves, and they may ask for a small fee. And I find that perfectly reasonable. So when it comes to questions of copyright, if you're confused, ask somebody who knows. Sometimes you have to actually consult a copyright lawyer or an intellectual property lawyer to get a definitive answer. But you know what? It pays, because the penalty for being wrong can be very severe. I hope that's helped out some people with questions about copyright and using other people's material. And come back next Saturday for another video Q&A with the book designer. I'm Joel Friedlander, and I'll see you on the blog.